Hi, Tom from bknutrition.com, and today I want to talk about how weight loss can be stalled by overexerting yourself with exercise and over restricting yourself with food. This is quite a common issue that I see with a lot of clients who are very desperate to lose weight, and what they've done is they've restricted their food massively because they understand that they need a calorie deficit, and then they've also gone out and done as much exercise as they possibly can because they know that they have to exercise to burn off body fat. Now, while these two ideas are, yes, true, that is that you do need to do exercise to burn off some calories, and you do need to restrict your food so that you can burn some fat and you don't store fat from eating too much food. Unfortunately, what happens is when you put those two things together, sometimes it can result in a calorie deficit which is so high that the body actually counteracts this by slowing down the metabolism, shutting down the metabolism, metabolic breakdown, metabolic stalling, whatever you want to refer to it. Some people say the metabolism is broken, it needs fixing, and there's all sorts of gurus online who will help you fix your metabolism for a cost, and maybe with some of their supplements that they sell. Now, I'm going to give you some ideas about how to fix this yourself. There's no supplements involved. There's no special course involved that I sell to fix your metabolism. All the stuff I do is evidence-based and evidence-informed, and it is proper nutrition coaching. It's not any quick fixes. And this won't be a quick fix. So if you're after a quick fix to fix your metabolism, that's not going to happen because it's a very slow process, although you can see results quite quickly. So what is involved with metabolic break and metabolic shutdown or whatever? So what happens is you know that you need to restrict your food. So you restrict your food, you restrict your calories coming in, and then what happens is because you restricted your calories coming in, when that restriction gets to a certain level, the body will start to recognize that there's less calories coming in than what's being burned. And so what it decides to do, it decides to start reducing your activity slightly. So I've talked in previous videos about something called NEAT, non-exercise activity thermogenesis. It's actually the stuff that you do when you're not in the gym. And you have a couple of things in your body that burn calories. You have, first of all, your resting metabolic rate, which is all the processes that keep you alive. You can't really reduce that. You can reduce it slightly, and the body can reduce it slightly, but actually if you started reducing that too much, you would end up dying. So resting metabolic rate is very difficult to lower, although your resting metabolic rate will lower as you lose body fat, because your actual weight of your body goes down, and your body doesn't actually need to move you around as much, as in waste as many calories moving you around. So the act of carrying your weight around is incorporated into your resting metabolic rate. So that might go down ever so slightly as your weight decreases, only ever so slightly though. Then you have something called TEF, which is thermic effective food, and that's the energy you burn getting the calories out of food. And you can't really change that. Of course, yes, you can take in less food, that will decrease your TEF, and if you increase food, your TEF will go up. And then some people have manipulated this to say, oh, okay, so let's eat more to lose more weight, to lose more calories. And it doesn't work like that, because TEF's around about 10%. So if you eat 200 calories, you'll burn around 20 calories getting that energy out. So the net gain is 180 calories. However, eating more, you're just taking in more calories. So eating more to lose weight, although I'll come on to why that sort of is a thing in a minute, eating more does not burn body fat. That's a falsehood. It's a lie told by people trying to manipulate science. So then you have TS, so you can't really manipulate that that much. Then on top, so those are the things you can't really manipulate too much. And then on top of that, you have NEAT, which is non-exercise activity thermogenesis, I've just said. That is a big chunk of your day. It's all the moving about that you do when you're not in the gym. And then you have EAT, which is exercise activity thermogenesis. So that's all the stuff you do when you're exercising in the gym. And if we think about how often we exercise in the gym, maybe not at the moment because we're in lockdown, but if it's normal circumstances or we exercise at home, that's only going to be about an hour of our day. It's a very small amount of time. The majority of our energy that's burnt not keeping us alive and digesting our food is the non-exercise activity thermogenesis, NEAT part of the day. And so what the body does, it starts to slow that down. It starts to make you lazy, starts to make make you more tired so that you don't get up and do things. And this happens if you restrict your calories too much. Okay, so that's the calories outside of things, or the calories inside of things, whatever. Calories in, calories out, that's the balance. So, and then we have, on the other side, we have the exercise side of things. So we're trying to increase that eat side of the equation by doing more exercise, so more lifting, more training. But because we have restricted our calories, the body is trying to slow us down. So those workouts become less productive. We actually do less in those workouts. And because we can potentially feel that we're tired and we're not doing as much, and if you're monitoring your calories by some sort of heart rate monitor or whatever, you might see that that's going down. So then you believe you have to do more. So the body tries to compensate by then making you more lazy. So we have this thing where you're trying to do as much as possible, and then because you're not losing body fat because the body's slowing you down, you then start to restrict your food, which then feeds back into that equation. The body recognizes there's even less food coming in, so it slows you down even more. And then you get to this equation where you might lose a little bit as you restrict food and increase your activity, but then the body compensates, and then you try and do more. And actually, you can probably see how that's not going to be a long-term successful plan, because you're dropping, the body's dropping, your body's dropping. There's going to be a point there which you reach, which you're just going to get exhausted and ill, and then the body's just going to say no way to any exercise, and it's going to give you massive hunger cravings to eat more food because you're just restricting yourself too much. Now this is quite a common occurrence. I see it a lot with clients, and prompting the video today was a call I had with a former client who we discussed where this was happening again. Now, you can probably think, well, why would you do that? Well, it must be obvious that you're not eating too many calories. It might be obvious to you sitting there not in that situation, but I've been in that situation where I've been a bodybuilder getting ready for a show, and once you're in that, I'm restricting myself and exercising more to lose body fat. The mindset to then think, oh, maybe I should actually eat more because maybe my body's giving me a negative feedback, that's very difficult to get around. That's something that people will not be thinking about. They'll be thinking about restricting themselves even more and doing more exercise because they have to continue that equation of dropping body fat. And so it does require some external intervention to do that. And that's where, say, I or another coach would come in and help that person, because you can't see it yourself. I've done my own diets for bodybuilding where I've done all my calculations, done all my calories, looked at it and gone, yep, I need to eat less and do more cardio. Even with my education, even with my knowledge, I thought that. And it's only because I had an external person helping me and monitoring me at that point who said, actually, maybe you need to back off on the cardio a little bit and eat a little bit more carbs to help you train harder. That was what I needed. And so I'm going to go into why eating more potentially could help you lose body fat. Okay, so we've gone down the restrict, and the body is then restricting its own calorie output. So we get into that negative sum game. Now let's think about how we can potentially eat more to do more. Now, and this is where the eat more to burn more body fat, or you're not eating enough to burn body fat myth comes from. It's not that you're not eating enough to burn body fat. What we're talking about is we want to have a balanced, let's say, comfortable situation in the body where the body is in a reasonable deficit. It's got sufficient calories to come in that's not threatening it on a level where if it allows that to happen, potentially the body might go into a dangerous state where it might die. So we want to make sure the body is in a balanced state where it's in a slight deficit and it's happy to do the exercise, it's happy to do that because we're only chipping away at the body fat. And remember, body fat stores in the body are used as an emergency store if we don't have energy available to us to perform the daily actions. And those negative feedback loops come from when the body fat stores are being depleted too fast and there's not enough calories coming in to maybe replenish them. So we're talking about these crash diets, those sorts of situations. What we want to get to a situation is where the body's happy to allow small amounts of body fat to be chipped away at, and also at some point we're going to have to raise calories so that the body gets these signals of, look, there is some calories going out, but then we're getting these refeeds coming back in. And this is where things like diet breaks and refeed days or cheat days, where they come into the equation. So when I was talking to my former client and friend the other day, or today, I was explaining that we have to look at your calories. So you have to go and use some sort of calorie calculator to get a baseline for where you are. So I have software that I use for my clients, but I have built on my website a calorie calculator for weight loss, and it's very easy. Just go bknutrition/calculator. If you go there, then you can get a free calculation of your calories needed for weight loss. It will tell you what I think your maintenance calories are. So that's the calories not burning fat, not storing fat, just staying as you are, and the calories that you might need to employ excuse me, for fat loss. So generally speaking, that'll be a 500 calorie drop. So if you are a very light, very small person, or if you're a very heavy person, the equation might be slightly out. So you might need to take those and manipulate those figures slightly. For most people, it will give you a decent calculation which you can start from. Now, it's all about putting a peg in the sand and starting and thinking, right, where do I need to start? Because calculations are good, they help you get a start, but calculations don't take into account the little things that go on in your life, the little nuances in your life. You might have things, say health considerations or certain conditions which are affecting metabolism. PCOS being an absolutely annoying one at that. It can reduce your metabolism by 30%. So that needs to be taken into account. The calculator is just a tool. Once you've got your starting point and you've got your calorie deficit point, so say for example it was like 1800 calories and we would be looking at a 1300 calorie deficit. That's where we want to be eating to in order to lose body fat. Now that's quite a substantial amount for an 1800 calories down to 1300. It's around about 20%. So that might be too high to initially go to. So you might want to think about 300, 400 calories and rather than 500 calories in that situation. But you've got to have a starting point. So start on 500 and see how you are, see how you're getting on with that. If immediately you're finding that is going to be, you've got a lot of hunger pangs from that reduction, it's probably the case that you were overeating massively past what your maintenance was and your body's gotten used to that level of calorie intake. And if you're getting those hunger pangs immediately, there's a real clear sign there that you were massively overeating before. If you're in the situation where I've just talked about where you were undereating, that probably won't be the case. You'll probably find that eating more food actually makes you potentially feel as though you're eating too much. But what we need to get to is an amount that's reasonable for the body to think, right, I'm happy with that level of food coming in and I'm happy for body fat to drop at the same time with exercise. So with a client I spoke to today, the calories that we're at were about 900 to 1,000, just under 1,000. With her activity level, it was so high that so she was burning, let's say, 500 calories a day through exercise. And what that meant was that on top of having the 900 calories that she was eating, she was also deficiting off 500 calories from her exercise. So that only left about 400 calories for other stuff in the day. Now, when you consider that when we worked out her RMR, we worked out RMR and then we multiplied it by what's called personal activity level to get what some people refer to as TDEE, total daily energy expenditure. I call it EER, which is energy expenditure rate. It's the same thing. It's the calories you burn in the day, in a normal day on average. And this level was around about 1,200 calories. So her normal expected maintenance was 1,200 calories. She was eating 900 to 1,000 and then burning off an additional 500 from exercise. So she was doing all the right things. She was trying to eat to a calorie deficit. She was trying to exercise. But she said that the exercise was so draining that she frequently dropped the weights and she was frequently tired and couldn't finish the exercise, felt as if she couldn't do enough and she was very lightheaded. These are all classic signs of the fact that you're undereating and overexerting. And this is very common. I see this a lot with clients. And if this is happening with you, don't worry about it. Okay, you have to maybe worry about it because it's something you have to fix, but it's very common. You're not alone. You're not the only person doing this. There's a lot of people who do this. I used to see this all the time, and myself when I was competitive bodybuilding, and I would get home from the gym and collapse on the floor because I had no energy left. Very often I would come in at the door and just collapse on the landing, because I literally had no energy to get into my kitchen. I had to sit down, and I was like, whew, for a long time, because I just overexerted myself. Because the motivation to train can be very, very strong, especially if you're using things like fat burners or stimulants to help with the workout. And that is also quite common when people hit this rut. They revert to fat burners, stimulants, pre-workout drinks to give them the energy to train, but it's just then prolonging that vicious cycle. So coming back to my former client and friend, we looked at the calories, and immediately it was evident that she was doing too much and not eating enough. So we moved the calories up to around about 1,200 to 1,300. The other thing was that her protein was very low, and this was evident because, and you'll know this because if you're doing a lot of exercise and when you sweat, if you get that very ammonia type smell, that is a classic sign that your body is burning through protein in order to satisfy the energy requirements, which means that you're not taking in enough energy. Why that's a bad thing is because if you're burning through protein to supply your energy levels, you're not using that protein to, say, build muscles, keep a strong immune system. Your body's in a defense mode where it's trying to survive the workout rather than giving you the motivation to do it and to do that workout properly. So what that means is that your workouts that you're doing are not burning enough energy. You don't have the energy available to do the workout properly. So the body's employing a defense mechanism to get you through it. But then it's going to incorporate all those other defense mechanisms I told you about before, whereby it's reducing calories, making you lazy, all that sort of thing. So this is where we would want to increase food. We would want to increase carbohydrates, especially if you're training with weights. And if you are one of those people who wants to do cardio to burn off calories, I would absolutely suggest that you do weights first, then cardio. The reason why you do weights first, deplete glycogen in your muscles, then any carbohydrates that are coming in from your food are going to replenish your glycogen in your muscles, allow you to train harder. And you might think, oh, I don't want to eat carbohydrates, turn to fat. Honestly, they won't if you train with weights and then you take on carbohydrates afterwards. The other thing is cardio is just a calorie burning session, unless you're trying to get more physically fit for performance or increase your fitness. Cardio is generally just a calorie burning exercise which increases your aerobic activity. If we want to get a leaner, stronger, fitter, more toned body, we want to train with weights. Do cardio first, you won't have the energy available to do your weights afterwards. You'll feel too tired and you won't get the body you want. So in all my experience, all my 10 years of coaching, 10 years plus coaching, weights first, then cardio. If you've got a choice between doing weights or cardio, always weights. Always go for that first. Build the body that you want. If you've got more muscle, you can dispose of more carbohydrates in there, and you've got a better propensity to build more muscle rather than storing body fat. So I won't go into the nuances of that. That's another video. But if the choice, if you've got muscle, build muscle, or train with weights, or do cardio, do muscle first. Build muscle, train with weights first, because that's one, it's going to burn calories, but it's also going to benefit in terms of building muscle so you look better. So we then talked about that as well and prioritized muscle building. So we've got then a change of direction whereby, yes, we're going to take on more food now, but we know why we're taking on more food. We're taking on more carbohydrates so that she can perform better in her workouts. Now, she was doing about 500 calories per workout for an hour. In my experience, I think that's low, especially for a lady who trains as hard as she does. She trains very hard, always sweating at the end. So 500 calories is very low for an hour's worth of expenditure, and that's because the body's restricting. So you put more carbohydrates in, maybe add like 200 calories of carbohydrates more into the diet. What that's going to do is going to give her more energy, more focus, more mental drive to train, potentially going to do more than 200 calories coming out. So you're not putting calories in to burn calories off, but putting the extra calories in frees up the body, says, yes, I don't mind doing that exercise, I'm not going to try and restrict you, and you can get more out of it. It's a very important thing to think about. We're not loading loads of carbohydrates in to sort of turn on any fat burning systems in the body. The fat burning systems are already there, they're always active, they're always working. But if you feed your workouts better, you can increase the food coming in. Yes, the exercise is going to go up as well, but the food coming in is at such a level the body's more comfortable with that. And then what I found with doing that with clients is they tend to get better results. They tend to feel better because they're eating more, and they don't tend to feel so tired all the time. The other thing was her protein was very low. It was almost on the point where I would be worried about that level of protein. So we talked about increasing protein to build more muscle. keep her fuller, so she was able to eat and control her diet and her cravings a bit more. Protein's a really important thing. It's not just for building muscle. There's lots of benefits in the body. I've done another video on that. But if your protein levels are low, potentially that's compromising your immune system. At the moment with COVID and everything else going on, you don't want to have a compromised immune system. So protein high, so we talked about taking a protein up to 2 grams per kilo, which is where I would advise most people to be if you're looking to lose weight and lose body fat, improve your body, build muscle. 2 grams per kilo is about where you want to be. Again, if you're quite overweight, you might want to calculate your protein on the level, the weight you want to get to, rather than your current body weight. So for her, this would have been around about sort of 120, 130 grams per day. She was not eating that. It was like 80 to 90 grams per day. So there was a lot of things there that we needed to change. And I thought I'd do this video as sort of a little case study to highlight where things might be going wrong. You might want to look at your diet and your training and see maybe if those things are coming up, maybe those things ring a bell with you. If so, they are quite easy to change. You don't need to fix your metabolism with any sort of special supplements sold by a guru with abs. Okay, fixing metabolism, you don't need a supplement. You just need the correct application of food and doing the right workouts for your body. So take those things on board. If what I've discussed in this video rings a bell with you, feel free to drop a comment or send me a message if you're uncomfortable with putting comments in. I will try my best to help you if I can with some advice on what to do. But generally those things, if you look at those things I've highlighted, they're the main things that will come up with this situation when people talk about the metabolism being broken, or the fact they can't lose any weight but they're not eating enough. So I hope that was helpful. I hope the video helped you and maybe found some things that you could improve. Is there someone who you know who's in this situation? Feel free to tag and share this video with them so that they can maybe get some help. Like I said, all this stuff's free. There's no sort of pitch at the end of any of these videos. I mean, I do obviously work with clients for weight loss and fat loss and building muscle and stuff, but if you want to look at that, just go to my website. I'm not going to pitch my products here. Hope that helps you, and I will see you on the next video. Cheers.